My spouse and sibling had a child in secret. When I refused to fund it, my mother stormed into my workplace, yelling that I was destroying everything. Roughly a year ago, my brother reached out to me. He wanted to rebuild our bond after years of silence. To understand this, you need to know that my brother was always the favored child during our childhood. In my parents' eyes, he was flawless, while I was merely there. They weren't openly cruel, but I was undeniably an afterthought. They ensured he got the best of everything, attention, resources, you name it. That's likely why I left home at 18 and never looked back. For years, we barely spoke. I was carving out my own path, building a solid career, getting married, and trying to create a life for myself. But last year, my brother sent me a message saying he and our parents missed me and wanted to mend things. I'm not sure why I agreed to reconnect. Maybe I thought people could change. Perhaps they truly wanted to fix the past. So, I let my brother back into my life. At first, things seemed okay. He started visiting more often, and I introduced him to my wife. They seemed to get along well, or so I believed. But after a few months, I noticed things that didn't feel right. My brother began showing up more frequently, sometimes when I wasn't home. My wife brushed it off, saying they were just hanging out, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Then, about 4 months ago, my wife dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. Initially, I was thrilled. We were married, and I thought we were happy, so I assumed the child was mine. But something felt off. My brother's visits increased, and whenever I saw him with my wife, there was an odd tension. He'd make comments about the baby, touch her belly, and say things that made me uneasy. I tried to convince myself I was overanalyzing. I wanted to trust my wife, but the doubts grew stronger. One night after she fell asleep, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her phone and scrolled through her texts, and there it was, the truth I dreaded. She'd been unfaithful with my brother for months, and the baby wasn't mine. It was his. I felt sick. I sat there for hours, staring at the screen, trying to process it. Eventually, I woke her up and confronted her. She tried to deny it at first, but when I showed her the messages, she couldn't lie anymore. She confessed everything. She'd been involved with my brother behind my back. They planned to reveal the affair after the baby was born. I was stunned. I packed my bags and left. The next day, I called my parents, hoping they'd support me for once. But no, they took my brother's side. They said he'd made a mistake, that I should be the bigger person, and that I needed to forgive him for the family's sake. I was floored. My own parents, who I'd been distant from for years, were now urging me to forgive the man who wrecked my marriage. That's when I decided I was done with them all. I told my parents I wanted nothing to do with them or my brother, and filed for divorce. I thought that would be the end, but it wasn't. During the divorce, my ex tried to take everything I had. She and my brother fabricated a story painting me as controlling and cruel. Naturally, my parents backed them up. It was like I was the antagonist in their twisted narrative, with them as the victims. In the end, she got a chunk of my savings, but I kept the house, a small win. Now I'm divorced, estranged from my family, and trying to rebuild my life. It's been 2 months since everything fell apart, and I'm still figuring out how to move on. I'm working hard, focusing on myself, but it's tough. Sometimes something triggers a memory, and the pain rushes back. But you know what? I'm done with them. My brother, my ex, my parents. They can have each other. I don't need them. I've spent my life as the second choice, the one overlooked, and I'm not letting that happen again. I don't know what lies ahead, but one thing's certain. I'm never letting them back into my life. All right. Here's where things got worse, if you can imagine. When I walked away from my ex and cut ties with my family, I thought they'd leave me alone. I mean, I had no connection to them anymore, right? My wife cheated with my brother, my parents supported him, and I was finished. Wrong. It wasn't that simple. A month after the divorce, my mom called out of the blue. I hadn't spoken to her since I left, when she basically demanded I forgive my brother for ruining my life. I wasn't in the mood to talk, but she kept calling. I finally answered to see what she wanted. She launched into a guilt-laden speech about how family sticks together no matter what. She said my brother was struggling, couldn't find work, and now with a baby, they were broke. She mentioned they'd been living off my ex's divorce settlement, but it was running dry, and they needed help. Then came the kicker. She asked me to support them financially. Yes, you heard that right. The family that betrayed me was now begging for money to sustain themselves. I almost laughed. I was like, are you kidding me? You expect me to help the guy who slept with my wife? You want me to bankroll their mess? But she kept going, talking about their struggles, how it wasn't fair to the baby, and how I should rise above it. I couldn't believe it. After everything they'd done, they had the nerve to ask for my help. I told her no, plain and simple. I wasn't giving them a dime. I said they could sort it out themselves like I had to after they abandoned me. But she wouldn't let it go. She started crying, saying I was selfish, that I wasn't thinking of the baby, and that my brother was sorry and needed a fresh start. She tried to make me feel guilty for not stepping in, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her it was their mess, not mine, and I wasn't getting involved. I hung up thinking that was the end. Nope. A few days later, my brother showed up at my house. I don't know how he got my address, but there he was, acting like nothing happened. I didn't want to let him in, but he wouldn't leave, so I let him speak just to get rid of him. He started with an apology, saying he messed up and didn't mean for this to happen. He claimed he and my ex didn't plan for things to spiral, and he didn't think it would hurt me this much. I just stared, wondering if he actually believed his own words. How could he think it wouldn't devastate me? He stole my wife and my chance at a family, and now he's acting like it was a fluke. Then he hit me with it. He's been jobless since the affair came out, and with a baby, they're struggling. He said he knew I was doing well in my career and hoped I'd help him out until he got back on his feet. I didn't know whether to laugh or lose it. Really? This guy betrays me, gets my wife pregnant, and now wants my money? I stood there, speechless for a moment. Finally, I told him to leave. I said he and my ex made their choices, and now they had to deal with them. I wasn't bailing them out, and I sure wasn't giving him cash. He tried to argue, saying I was petty and holding a grudge, but I wasn't having it. I told him he was lucky I didn't deck him right there. That's when things shifted. My brother, usually cocky and self-assured, got angry. He started ranting, saying I'd always been jealous of him and bitter because our parents favored him. He claimed I was just refusing to help because I was still mad that my ex picked him over me. I stood there, stunned. This guy thinks he's the victim here. He kept saying it wasn't fair that I wouldn't help, that he has a kid now and I should move on. He even had the audacity to say I should thank him for stepping in because my ex didn't love me anymore. That was it. I told him to get out before I called the police. I wasn't going to stand there and let him spew that nonsense in my face after everything I'd lost because of him. He finally left, but not before taking one last shot, saying I'd regret not helping him. That one day I'd need him and he wouldn't be there. I laughed and told him I'd rather be homeless than ask him for anything. After that, I hoped they'd finally back off. Wishful thinking. About a week later, my dad called. I hadn't spoken to him since the divorce, and I figured he was calling to pull the same stunt as my mom and brother, guilt me into helping. I was right. He started off calm, asking how I was, acting like everything was normal. I wasn't in the mood for chit-chat, so I cut him off and asked what he wanted. He gave a long speech about how I'm the only one in the family doing well and how my brother and ex are in a rough spot. He said families stick together, and I should help because they have a baby to care for. I told him no. I wasn't helping, and I didn't care about their situation. He tried to say I was being selfish and not seeing the bigger picture. He warned I'd regret it later, because family is what matters most. But I've been through enough to know that's not true. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who stand by you when others turn away. And my family? They turned away the moment they chose my brother's happiness over mine. So I told my dad the same thing I told my mom and brother. I was done. I wanted nothing to do with them. And I wasn't their fallback anymore. I hung up, blocked their numbers, and haven't looked back. Okay? Here's where things went from bad to ridiculous. After telling my dad I was done and blocking them, I thought that was it. How many times can they keep begging for money, right? I was dead wrong. They weren't done. Next up was my ex-wife reaching out to me. Yeah, the same woman who cheated with my brother, had his kid, and thought I'd still listen to her. It started with a random text. She wrote, "I know you don't want to talk, but I need to clear things up." I ignored it. What was there to clear up? She betrayed me, end of story, but ignoring her didn't work. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. And guess who? My ex. I was about to hang up when she started sobbing, saying she had no one else to turn to. She rambled about how things with my brother were falling apart, how he's jobless, and how they can't pay their bills. Then she pulled the, "You've got to help for the baby's sake" card. Why would I help them after all this? I told her flat out, no, not my problem. You made your choices, now live with them. But she kept going. She admitted she messed up but said I should understand because we were married once, and that should mean something. She even tried the remember the good times tactic to make me forget how she ended our marriage by sleeping with my brother. Here's the thing. I wasn't even mad at her anymore. I was just exhausted. Exhausted by her. Exhausted by my brother. Exhausted by my family acting like I owed them after all their nonsense. So I told her clearly, I don't owe you anything. You're with my brother now, and he's your issue, not mine. That's when she got desperate. She started pleading, saying, "What about the baby? Don't you care about him? He could have been yours." That stung a bit, I'll admit. I always wanted kids, and for a moment I thought I'd be a dad. But then I remembered. The baby isn't mine. And honestly, that's not my responsibility. I told her, the baby's not mine, and it's not my job to take care of him or you. You've got a whole family that backed you, remember? Go ask them for help. And I ended the call. I thought they'd finally get the hint and leave me alone. Spoiler, they didn't. A few days later, I'm at work trying to get through the day when my boss approaches my desk. He looked uncomfortable, which was odd since we usually get along great. He said, "Hey, someone's here to see you." I thought, who would show up at my job? So I head to the lobby, and guess who's there? My mother. I was done. Who just shows up at someone's workplace unannounced? As soon as I step into the lobby, she starts in on me. She says, "Why are you shutting us out?" We're family, and family doesn't abandon each other. I told her I wasn't abandoning anyone. I was done with their nonsense, but she wouldn't listen. She started crying in front of everyone, saying I was punishing the whole family for one mistake. She claimed my brother was in a bad place, and they were struggling because of me. I looked her in the eye and said, "You're not struggling because of me. You're struggling because you chose to side with my brother after he ruined my marriage. That's on you." She went on about how they didn't expect things to turn out like this, and they just wanted to make things right. But I didn't buy it. I told her I wasn't arguing with her at my workplace, and if she wanted to talk, she could call if I ever unblocked her. That shut her up for a second. She gave me a lecture about how I was better than this and how she raised me to be forgiving. I almost laughed. Raised me? The same parents who spent my childhood prioritizing my brother and treating me like I was invisible? Sure. I told her if she didn't leave, I'd have security escort her out. That's when she lost it. She started screaming, calling me selfish and saying my pride was keeping me from helping my family. I just stood there, over it all. She finally stormed out, still ranting about how I'd regret it. I went back to my desk, and my boss just gave me a look like, "What was that?" I didn't explain. What could I say? Sorry, my mom showed up to guilt me into supporting my brother who slept with my wife. That'd go over well. I just said it was family drama and left it at that. I spent the rest of the day in a fog trying to focus on work, but all I could think about was how my family went from betraying me to outright harassing me. Showing up at my job? What's next? Camping outside my house? That night, I decided enough was enough. I sent one final message to my mom, dad, brother, and ex-wife. I told them all the same thing. Don't contact me again. I'm done with this family and I want nothing to do with you. Stop harassing me or I'll get a restraining order. Harsh? Maybe. But I was done. I'd already lost my marriage, my dreams, and any hope of a normal relationship with my family. I wasn't letting them keep dragging me down. And you know what? For the first time in months, I felt peace after sending those messages. It was like I'd finally taken charge of my life, even if it meant cutting out the people who were supposed to love me most. And I don't regret it. Not one bit. Let's see if they leave me alone now. But something tells me this isn't over. After sending that final plea for my family to back off, I hoped I'd finally find some calm. How many times do you have to tell people to stop before they listen? Turns out, my family doesn't respect boundaries. Less than just standing at my door like everything was fine. I open it, and there he is, flashing that fake smile he uses when he wants something. He says, "Son, we need to talk." I'm already irritated because, really, what now? Haven't they done enough? I step outside, shut the door, and tell him to make it quick. I wasn't in the mood for more guilt trips or money requests. He gets right to it, no preamble. He says, "Your brother and your mom are struggling. Things are rough, and they need help. You're doing all right, aren't you? You could pitch in." I couldn't believe it. After everything, this was still their priority, protecting my brother while I was treated like I didn't matter. I cut him off and said, "I'm not giving them money, I'm not helping, and I'm done with this talk." But he kept pushing, saying family helps family, that they're in a tough spot, and I need to step up. Step up. The nerve of that hit me like a brick. I've worked my whole life, but they've treated me like nothing. I told him, "You've never stepped up for me. Not once. When my wife was cheating with my brother, where were you? When I needed you, you backed them, not me. So don't come here asking me to step up now." He stood there, like he didn't expect me to push back. Then he tried the guilt card, of course. He said, "I know we've made mistakes, but we're still your family. We'll always be your family." Like saying family erases all the pain they've caused. I was done being polite. I said, "Family? You're not my family anymore. Not after what you've done. You tossed me aside for him and now you expect me to bail you out? No way. That's not how this works." He got defensive, saying I was being dramatic and needed to let go of grudges. He claimed my brother made a mistake, but I overreacted by cutting everyone off. That word, overreacted, set me off. I said, "You think I'm overreacting? My wife slept with my brother. The kid she's raising should have been mine. You all stood by, watched it happen, then told me to forgive him like it was nothing. And now you have the gall to ask for my help? That's not overreacting. That's drawing a line." He was shaken, but tried to stay calm. He said, "We didn't know it'd turn out like this. We just wanted to keep the peace." I couldn't believe my ears. Keep the peace? How is letting my brother destroy my marriage keeping the peace? But that's classic them. Always brushing things under the rug, pretending it's fine and expecting me to play along. I told him, "Keeping the peace is just an excuse for ignoring the real issue. You've ignored me my whole life, acting like everything's okay as long as my brother's happy. Well, I'm not ignoring it anymore. I'm done." And I turned to head back inside. But he wasn't done. He grabbed my arm, which was a bad move. I yanked it away and said, "Don't touch me." He looked at me like he didn't know who I was. I think he really thought I'd give in like I did when I was younger. But I'm not that kid anymore, and I wasn't letting them manipulate me. Before he left, he tried one last guilt trip. He said, "You'll regret this someday. You'll see family is all that matters." I looked him in the eye and said, "No. Respect matters, and I haven't gotten any from you or anyone in this family, so I won't regret this." He stood there like he wanted to say more, but he just shook his head and walked away. When I got back inside, I sat down, trying to process it all. No matter what I did, they couldn't accept that I was done with their mess. They couldn't handle me not playing by their rules, and it drove them nuts. Part of me hoped they'd realize how badly they'd screwed up. Maybe they'd apologize or own their mistakes. But that was naive. They don't see what they did wrong. They never will. In their eyes, I'm the villain for walking away. I'm the one tearing the family apart. But you know what? I'm okay with that. If standing up for myself makes me the bad guy in their story, so be it. I'll be the bad guy. I'm not letting them guilt me into being their doormat again. After my dad left, I blocked him too. I didn't want more surprise visits or calls. I knew they'd keep trying, but for now, I could breathe. Or so I thought. Then the phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, thinking it was another attempt to reach me. But when I checked the message, it wasn't my family. It was a lawyer. My ex-wife was trying to sue me for more alimony. That was the final straw. I'm not the same person I was when this started. I've learned you have to fight back sometimes. So now I'm gearing up for the legal fight. I've been through hell, and if they want to keep pushing, I'll push back. This time, they won't win. I'm done being the one they walk over. After that voicemail from the lawyer about my ex-wife's attempt to get more alimony, I knew it was time to stand my ground. I wasn't letting her or my family drag me down anymore. Enough was enough. First, I called my attorney. I filled him in on everything. The ex's money grab. My family's constant harassment. He was as frustrated as I was and said we'd put a stop to this once and for all. So we started building a case. Turns out her claim was weak. She was already getting a generous divorce settlement, so there was no basis for more. But some people keep pushing until they're stopped. I decided I wasn't letting her walk all over me anymore, and I wasn't letting my family manipulate me. My attorney and I put together a solid defense. We even found some loopholes that could potentially end my alimony payments entirely. That's when things got interesting. A few days before the court date, my brother, of course, reached out again. This time, he sent a long email playing the older sibling card. It was all about how he regretted how things turned out and missed having me around. I could practically hear his fake sincerity through the words. He even tried to claim the affair wasn't what it seemed, that it was a mistake, and they didn't mean to hurt me. Sure, a mistake that went on for months and led to a child, right? I didn't reply to the email. Why bother? I knew he was only contacting me because he and my ex were worried about losing the alimony, hoping to guilt me into backing down. But I wasn't letting that happen. I was done with them. They had their chance to make things right, and they blew it over and over. So the court date arrived, and I was ready. My attorney had everything lined up, and we were prepared for whatever they threw at us. My ex and her lawyer showed up, and, no surprise, my brother was there for support. I wasn't shocked, but it still stung to see them together, acting like they hadn't ruined my life. They didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. They just sat there whispering to each other, playing the victims. When it was our turn to present, my attorney laid it all out. He explained that my ex was already getting plenty from the divorce, and she had no right to more just because her life wasn't going well. He also pointed out that she'd been dishonest during the divorce, hiding her relationship with my brother before it was finalized. Basically, we made it clear she didn't deserve a cent more. Her lawyer tried to argue she needed money for the baby. Not my kid, but it didn't hold up. My attorney shut that down fast. He said it wasn't my duty to support their child, and the judge seemed to agree. The best part? My attorney had gathered evidence of my family's harassment over the past few months. Texts, surprise visits, my mom showing up at my job. He presented it to the judge as proof they were trying to pressure and intimidate me into giving them money. The court wasn't impressed with their behavior, and you could see my ex's face drop as she realized things weren't going her way. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Not only did my ex not get more alimony, but they reduced what I was paying her. The judge saw through her act and decided she didn't deserve as much as she'd been getting. It was the best outcome I could have hoped for. After the ruling, my ex and brother stormed out of the courthouse without a word to me. I could see the anger and frustration on their faces, and it felt amazing. For the first time in this whole mess, I felt like I'd won. I wasn't the one being trampled anymore, but it didn't stop there. A few days after the court decision, my dad tried calling again. He left a voicemail about how I'd torn the family apart and hurt everyone. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I deleted it and blocked his number again. I wasn't letting them pull me back into their drama. I was done, truly done. And honestly, I feel free now. For the first time in years, I don't feel weighed down by my family's expectations, my ex's lies, or my brother's betrayal. I'm just me, I've cut them all out, and I'm focusing on myself. It's not always easy, and it still hurts to think about what happened, but I'm not letting it control my life anymore. Since the court case, I've thrown myself into work, my friends, and just living. I'm not going to pretend everything's perfect. It's not. Sometimes I still get angry or wonder what could have been if things had gone differently. But those moments are fading. The truth is, I'm better off without them. My family, and especially my ex, were toxic. It took me a while to see it, but I did. And I'm never going back to that life. I've got a fresh start, and I'm not wasting it. So that's it. My family tried to ruin me. My ex tried to take more than she was owed, but in the end, I came out on top. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. And if they ever try to come back into my life, let's just say I'm not afraid to push back. Update 1. Okay, so here's where things took an unexpected twist. After the divorce and cutting off my family, I thought I was done with their nonsense. But you know the saying, when it rains, it pours. I should have known they wouldn't just leave me be. I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My aunt. A bit of background on her. She's my dad's sister, and we were never close growing up. She always seemed to stay out of family drama, so I didn't think much of her. But apparently she's been keeping tabs because she heard about my divorce and reached out. At first I thought she was just checking in to see how I was. But no, she had her own motives, just like the rest of my family.